Yesterday game was horrendous, bro. I mean, it was bad, bad. I mean, this one might be one for the ages, bro. I can't even lie. The referees just exposed their hand so bad, bro. I mean, they just didn't care no more. They didn't care. The world was watching how bad the cause was. They didn't care at all. They was going to get their issue off against the Fever no matter what. And I'm here to tell you that's exactly what went down, bro. I mean, they got their issue off in a major way, bro. I mean, there was countless of times I could literally look at the screen and know.
What if I told you the most talked about figure in the WNBA right now isn't a player, but a referee making headlines for all the wrong reasons? Buckle up, because the footage that just surfaced could rival any reality show drama. Caitlin Clark didn't just take a hit, she got shortchanged, and the replay raises more questions than answers. What this ref did next? It's all on camera, and fans aren't staying quiet.
So lads, today the referees gave the report on the situation, and it's even worse. It's even worse than I imagined, and it was pretty grim. Like, it was a pretty grim overall, it was a pretty grim overall.
Watching the WNBA and seeing how things are run, seeing how things are done, and after you've seen what it looks like to get it right, and you come in and see something looking really wrong, you're going to call it out. It is what it is. You're going to be critical of players. If they do something shady or classless, you're going to call.
And once again, the whistle blows, not for a foul, not for a travel, but seemingly just for Caitlin Clark showing up. At this point, it feels less like basketball and more like a chaotic script where the referees play the role of exaggerated antagonists. With phantom fouls, overlooked contact, and a growing list of questionable calls, the officials are starting to look less like neutral enforcers and more like wild cards shaping the game in all the wrong ways.
I wanted to share with you guys an article that I found that honestly gives us so much insight into the WNBA referees, how they are hired, how much they make, and there's one section that really stood out to me, and they break down essentially why they are making the calls that they make, and they also talk about the influx of new fans flooding to the WNBA. They talk about Caitlin Clark a little bit. This article to me was really telling. It actually came out in January, but it was published by SB Nation, and it's entitled How WNBA Referees Are Scouted, Trained, and Held Accountable.
And once again, the whistle blows, not for a foul, not for a travel, but seemingly just for Caitlin Clark showing up. At this point, it feels less like basketball and more like a chaotic script where the referees play the role of exaggerated antagonists. With phantom fouls, overlooked contact, and a growing list of questionable calls, the officials are starting to look less like neutral enforcers and more like wild cards shaping the game in all the wrong ways.
With what they said coming into the season, Kathy made it her business to let them know that, referees is going to be getting assessed for this next season to make sure they're making the right proper calls. Man, at this point, we need NBA refs all the time, bro. I don't want these YMCA, junior league, high school ass referees, bro. We need real life refs because as of right now, they're costing the Indiana Fever.
Let's be real. Caitlin Clark doesn't just look tired. She looks exhausted. And not the played a full game, left it all on the court kind. This is the kind of burnout that comes from knowing you could drop 60 and still get called for existing too confidently. She's carrying a franchise, energizing an entire league, and representing a massive wave of women's basketball fans. Yet somehow, it feels like the officials are more interested in tripping her up than letting her play.
Started. You remember the lopsided officiating that we got last year? The All-Star break comes around, the Olympic break rolls around, and then what did we hear from Lynn Dunn? Lynn Dunn goes on the Dan Dockage show, and she calls out the officiating. She calls out the refereeing. She calls out the WNBA. The lopsidedness that is being shown not in favor of the Indiana Fever. The clear biases when it comes to foul calls. The clear biases when it comes to not calling foul calls. Last year, it took...
Of course, Caitlin Clark's frustrated. Who wouldn't be? Night after night, she puts on a masterclass, only to find that her biggest challenge isn't the opposing team, but the officials in stripes. It's like she's playing in a league where excellence is suspicious, and every move she makes gets flagged, Not because it's illegal, but because it's her doing it. And Coach Stephanie White? She didn't just lose her composure. She launched it into orbit. Her sideline reactions looked more like improv theater than a basketball game, pacing and protesting as each call grew more baffling than the last. The officiating? Less rule enforcement, more freestyle performance, with whistles replacing punchlines.
Holistically, I think Caitlin Clark is a really hard player to officiate, much like Diana Taurasi was throughout the course of her career, for a couple of reasons. Caitlin Clark regularly gets picked up in the full court. She also gets blitzed more over the course of her career than any player in WNBA history, or in that period of time. And she also creates some contact herself on the offensive end of the floor. She is very difficult to officiate because of all of the contact that's happening around her all of the time. That being said, I was in contact with a number of WNBA coaches yesterday about this topic of the officiating in the WNBA.
There's no sugarcoating it. Caitlin Clark is being treated like a problem, when all she's done is reignite national attention around women's basketball. The WNBA asked for the spotlight. Now it's here. But the referees? They're acting like the spotlight's a heat lamp, fumbling under pressure and making calls that defy explanation. Every questionable whistle becomes instant replay fuel, every missed foul a viral moment. Clark pushes the pace. Whistle. Clean steal. Called back. Even a deep breath in the paint seems risky. Meanwhile, her opponents get away with borderline body slams. It's not just uneven, it's surreal. The officiating feels less like enforcement and more like improvisation, with Caitlin somehow always cast as the villain in a script she didn't write. For a rookie carrying the hopes of a franchise and the eyes of a nation, the weight just keeps getting heavier.
By sharing that the officiating in the WNBA became as hot button of an issue as any heated debates surrounding the league's physicality dominated the headlines, particularly when Indiana Fever star rookie Caitlin Clark was subject to several intentional fouls. Now, they also brought up Game 5 of the WNBA Finals. We actually made a whole video about that as well because there were some suspect calls at the end of that game, and a lot of people felt like the WNBA Finals were...
Every time Caitlin Clark rises, someone's there to knock her back down, sometimes with no shame and no whistle. And on the sidelines, Coach Stephanie White is putting on a masterclass in visible frustration. Her reactions have become must-see TV, equal parts fiery, fed up, and fiercely loyal. She's not just coaching anymore. She's practically narrating the absurdity unfolding on the court. Clipboard in hand, pacing like a detective trying to solve a crime only she seems to notice. She channels the disbelief of fans everywhere. Because let's face it, watching your rookie phenom get bumped, hacked, and bulldozed without consequence would make anyone snap. Yet instead of applause for her defense of her team, we're left analyzing freeze frames of no calls while refs stand stiff as mannequins. It feels less like a professional league and more like a bad sketch comedy where the punchline is always the same. Caitlin pays the price for being great. Next voice.
It took us 4 games for Stephanie White to say, I've had enough. It's taken 4 games for Stephanie White to say, you know what? I've had absolute enough. Game 1, okay. Game 2, okay. Game 3, alright. But today was the last straw when it came for Stephanie White. The New York Liberty get to the free throw line 32 times. The Indiana Fever this season have a discrepancy minus 31 when it comes to free throws.
That happened. Why was J.C. Sheldon's foul upgrade to flagrant one? In the judgment of the officials, the foul by Sheldon was unnecessary. Contact to Clark's face. Furthermore, there was a wind-up and impact, and the contact to face carries potential for injury. How did you come to the conclusion that that is a flagrant one? How did you come up to the conclusion that it was unnecessary, there was a wind-up, and it was to the face? The 3 of them, that is a flagrant 2. By definition, you've described it.
You know, the refs are the worst. They really are the worst.
We gotta unpaint these narratives. They all have heart. All the mannerisms in basketball are the same. This is gonna be the same. Doesn't matter your color, your race, or your religion. That means I'm shot in your face. This means I'm clapping, I'm excited. How do you make basketball mannerisms about race? Making sense. Sometimes we might even push the ref. I'm in the heat of the moment. I'm not a bad person.
Wait. Hold on, wait. You be pushing.
I ain't never pushed them, but I've gotten in their face. You know what I'm saying? 'Cause, you know.
Even when you watch the MNBA, I would pray for it. And Scott Foster sucks. But I would pray for a Scott Foster in the WNBA. Some of these women's refs, I don't know if you feel this way, Angel, but they...
And I will say it again, the WNBA as an organization is insufferable, and you would be hard-pressed to find another organization that is as committed to self-imploding as the WNBA.
There is no place in basketball for somebody to be poked in the eye, and like then they're saying Caitlin Clark is flopping. In what world is she flopping? Oh, she flailed and she fell over. For crying out loud, that girl, JC Sheldon, should have been kicked out of the game. She should have received a flagrant 2. There's no reason why you need to poke somebody. Listen, I get it. She's playing her hard. She's guarding her. It's basketball. Aside from the viewership and the recordship and the media, it's just a basketball game. I totally get that. There's no place in basketball for like that. These WNBA refs need to control.
I said you lost control of the game, and here's what happened is those refs around allowed that type of play to happen. That just opens up the rest of the game to say, do you see what I got away with? I'm going to be able to get away with other things too. And that's exactly what I said. That's a dangerous game. That is a unsafe game for players to be a part of because it allows for the other team to make some really nasty, maybe